And now Henry is about to be enlightened. Things didn't change too much for Henry. At least it didn't seem like they changed a whole lot. He noticed that their trips to Willoughby were more frequent than ever before, and that instead of once a week on Saturday, they were going 3 and 4 times a week, sometimes with the children and sometimes without them. Oh, it didn't really matter. Willoughby was no longer a treat to any of them. And necessity dictated the frequency of their trips. Henry did notice that when the family went to Willoughby, there wasn't time to see anything along the way, and the children usually talked in the back seat or read comic books they got at Weigel's new magazine rack. He wondered if the children had forgotten how many groundhog holes there were in the 7 miles to Willoughby, but then remembered that you couldn't see woolly worms, turtles, groundhogs, snakes, toads, rabbits, fences, barns, houses, or people very well at 60 miles an hour. There wasn't even too much time to think along the way, for 8 or 9 minutes didn't give you too much time to think, and what with the billboards spewing out their messages at you as you went by, and the road signs to watch, well, that's how it was. Anyway, the kids always wanted the radio on when they were riding in the car, and that way they could hear the latest music, which Henry didn't understand or want to, and Esther could hear the commercials about all the things that went on in Chamberstown. The influence of these commercials sure did make themselves felt, for every now and then Esther would say, "Henry, could we drive over to Chamberstown tomorrow to the sale?" And then would follow a glowing account of the many bargains offered at the new Sears department store in the county seat. When objecting that they couldn't afford to buy the things offered, he was met with the irresistible argument that the time to buy these things is not when you need them, but when you can buy them at great savings. One night at the Sears store, Esther was just looking around while Henry looked at his pocket watch. She discovered a fantastic bargain in clothing for the whole family, and he complained he should be home in bed because a full day tomorrow hauling hay would demand all the strength he could muster. Henry objected that they simply didn't have the money. Anyway, his old overalls were good enough. Esther replied that it wouldn't hurt him to have some sport shirts and slacks and look a little decent when they came to town. This hurt Henry, but he looked at himself and then at the other men around him, and he wished he were back at Whispering Pines and up on that point that overlooked the valley. No one could see his overalls there. He conceded that she was right, and then the clerk assured Henry that it would only take a minute to open an easy payment account, and then they could buy anything they wanted with just a minimum of trouble. Now, Henry had never heard of the easy payment plan. The only kind of payment he knew anything about was cash. Oh, he remembered how once or twice when things were real bad that his dad had gone to the bank and got a 90-day note for a small amount to tide them over, as Dad used to say. The bank president was a personal friend of Henry's dad, and it was more of a favor than a business transaction. The banker even flushed at having to ask for a signature, for he had always said that Frank Morgan's word was as good as his bond. Henry had always looked upon borrowing as an emergency measure at the very best, and the thought of borrowing to buy clothes he didn't feel he needed was strange. This was soon overcome by the credit manager turning out to be an old schoolmate of Henry's who had long since gone to Chamberstown to make his fortune. He assured Henry that everybody has an easy payment account at Sears, and that the convenience of it was something no one could afford to be without. Being known to the credit manager won Henry quick temporary approval, and he soon left the office clutching his key to the good things in life, a credit card. They soon made their purchase, and on the way home they talked about how easy it was to buy now and pay later. Of course, neither of them realized that they had only bought now, for the pay later had not yet manifested itself for what it was. Anyway, he had 45 days until a payment was due, and in 45 days many things could happen. And they did. A few days later, Henry was summoned to the house to talk to a man from the power company who drove an orange Jeep into Henry's lane. The man came quickly to the point. The improved highway had forced the power company to match the progress of the community, and a transmission line from Willoughby up the Salem Pike would soon be a reality. Henry said that was all right with him, for he could not see how a transmission line had anything to do with him, but it did. He was told that the other neighbors were already signed up for electric service and that electricity would open up a whole new dimension to living. He would soon know the joys of living better electrically. Again, he was assured that the good things of life would come by the harnessing of this powerful giant in his home. Oh, Esther was thrilled at the prospect, for already she and the children had been fascinated with the many, many electrical appliances on sale at Sears. Henry mildly objected that there was no wiring in his house, nor had there been for 75 years, that the Wiry's house would be a tremendous expense which he couldn't afford. The kind man from the power company said they had a provision that would overcome the difficulty. A 10-year deferred payment plan, and their own subcontractors would take care of all the details. Henry asked if it was kind of like the Sears Easy Payment Plan, and he was assured that it was even easier than that. The estimated cost of Henry's house wiring would come to $1,500, and spread over 10 years with 7% interest would be only $20.80 a month, a negligible amount indeed for such a whole new world of easy living. And what the man didn't tell Henry was that besides the $1,500 initial cost, over the 10 years he would pay $1,050 in interest, thereby almost doubling the cost of it all. When Henry asked how much the interest would amount to, he was put at ease by being told he didn't have to worry about it, for any time he chose he could pay it all off and owe only for the time he had the loan. Now, it was all bewildering at first, but the more he thought about it, the simpler it became, and the man said the contractors could begin the first of the week, and that by the time the transmission line, now under construction, was finished, Henry could be enjoying the blessings of electricity. Henry said reluctantly to Esther, "Well, if this is what you and the kids want, it's all right with me. I don't want you to be without the good things in life as long as I can provide them." Oh, the man was pleased, and the contracts were drawn up, and Henry wrote laboriously, "Henry L. Morgan," on the proper line, and Esther, in her fine hand, wrote, "Esther A. Morgan," on the line beneath. And so began the fascinating world of electric appliance magic.